So, guys, we have Seth Somers here today with us. He is our trustee processor at Revolution Mortgage. After the loan leaves Chris Parrish's hands, it goes to Seth, and he just makes sure that the loan is going to close on time, that it's perfect. And we are so glad to have him. He's originally from Indiana, and he has been in the mortgage business for 5 years. He's been with Revolution for a year, and he's a Pinnacle Award winner, which is really an amazing thing. He won that several quarters, and it's based on customer service and some other metrics. So, Seth, I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about that award, the Pinnacle Award.
Sure. Yeah, it is an award given to processors every quarter that is based off of both customer satisfaction via surveys at the end of a closing or at the end of a deal that our clients submit as to how we did our job and how I did my job individually, but also based off of a numeric metric that you have to have so many loans closed per month and per quarter in order to even qualify for that. So it is a combination of both volume and being able to handle excessive volume well, and then also making sure that the clients feel appreciated and are satisfied with how the experience went.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's so great. We're just so grateful to have you on board
Happy to
with
be
us.
here.
So, yeah.
Throughout this video, you are going to hear some terms you may not be familiar with, such as AUS, automated underwriting, loan to value, and findings, and all kinds of interesting terms. So I would love for you to know what those terms mean. I think it's important. And so you can check out the video that I have on Mortgages 101. It has all of these terms and more in there. And then that way this video will make more sense to you. I hope you enjoy it.
Tell the borrowers a little bit about what goes on, once Chris hands that loan off to you.
Sure. So Chris gets it. The primary job responsibility for us as a processor is to make sure that the documentation submitted matches the loan file and how it's submitted. So whether that's with income, so pay stub, W-2, and any additional income documents like tax returns that we might have or need, all the way through asset documentation, making sure that the credit report and everything that goes into the credit profile is up to speed and will qualify for the loan program that was submitted. And really just to make sure that we don't have any issues with getting an initial underwriting approval with the documents that were initially submitted. So once we get that underwriting approval though, my job's not done, Chris's job's not done. We still have additional items that we still need to get and verify. And so Chris and I kind of we work together hand in hand with the underwriter to make sure that we get everything so the loan can eventually be purchased with an investor without any faults or seams with the process.
Yeah, that is awesome. So you're kind of pre-underwriting it, make sure it's all gussied up and good looking before the underwriter sees it. So does that help it to close quicker, if you get it all prepared like that for her or him?
Yeah, it does. And I've seen that even in my own experience of being a processor when I was, very green and first started with processing. It would take a couple of underwriting touches and clarification on some conditions. And then eventually, now that I'm a little more seasoned in my position, I know what we're looking for. I know what underwriters are looking for, and I know what the investors are looking for. So it makes it easier to relay that to Chris, for Chris to relay that to the borrowers, and really just to make sure that we get what we need up front. And it kind of limits the back and forth between us and the underwriters, as well as us and the clients. So,
right, for sure. So when I was in the wholesale business, the processor a lot of time would work for the loan officer, and then the underwriter would be with a different company, and they're disconnected from that person. How does that work at Revolution? You can talk to that underwriter, right? And you have relationships with them. How is that just so much different?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of being here at Revolution, actually, is the underwriting teams are split up into pods. So we actually work with the same 3 to 5 underwriters based off of your region. So for instance, Chris is obviously in Texas. He deals with I would say, southwest region of the country. So wherever he is originating, he's probably getting the same underwriters for every file. But I also handle a different branch in Kansas. I've worked in the Atlantic, on the East Coast, and then also as far as the Seattle region on the Pacific Northwest. So each of those regions have their own underwriting pods. which means I get to, have relationships and further those relationships with underwriters, but it makes it very easy for our branches and our salespeople to really be able to extend and further those relationships with underwriters because they're working with the same 3 to 5 on every file.
Yes, that is so key. When at a regular broker, a mom and pop broker, nothing wrong with those guys, but they get an underwriter, they may not know, they may be at an entirely different bank that week, sending your loan as if you're the borrower, sending that loan there. The underwriter doesn't know them. There's a trust level, right? I mean, the underwriter needs to trust you, trust Chris that he's doing a good job. And once you've established that, don't you feel like the loans just close so much better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, confidence is key for everybody in every portion of this job. And I think the more confident that an underwriter is in the files that they are working, usually the more seamless that process is for us and for the borrower too. So it's really great, though, going back to your original point, how we are able to just hop on a phone call, hop on an email chain, or hop on a Zoom call. And we can speak to underwriters really at any given point throughout the day without worry. So
face to face, through
face to face, just like this.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much better. That's great. So is the borrower sometimes going to be asked for additional documents even after you get it? Does that happen sometimes?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not perfect. So there are going to be situations that, we miss very minute details in the documents that were submitted that could cause additional questions or have an investor come asking for additional clarification on those documents. So that does happen time to time. We're very good with making sure that the client knows that up front, of course, that, hey, this is not the only documentation that we'll need. We'll have to have an underwriter review. And if there's anything else, then of course, you'll hear that from us directly as soon as we know. But unfortunately, yes, the files where, you don't need anything else after initial submission are very few and far between.
Right. Sure. There's always some little thing. And so how do they get those documents to you? Do they have to have like a fax machine or something? Like, how does it?
Thank goodness they don't. A fax machine will work, but we actually use a website and a portal that borrowers can upload documents to, whether it's through the app on their cell phone or on the website on their computer. And they can upload PDF, Word, JPEG pictures. They can upload pretty much whatever file type that they would like. And then that filters in on our side, and we review, edit if we need to, and then submit that into the file on our side. So email also works. So we have a lot of clients that are like, hey, we'd rather just, go through the security of email. Sure. And you can send documents that way.
That is awesome. So technically, if the borrower's got their W-2s laying on their kitchen table, as long as it's clean and well lit, they could take a little picture.
Yeah, I would say that is probably 90% of the way that clients get documents to us is just everybody's got a cell phone at this point pretty much, or knows somebody who does. So a quick picture and upload and we're good.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember, back in the day when I got my first loan, I had to, go to the fax machine at work or Kinko's or... I don't want to think about it, Seth. It was so different, right? Oh my gosh. So I'm so glad to hear you say that. So if you're a first-time home buyer or it's been a while since you've gotten a loan, Seth's going to make it really, really easy. So, why does the underwriter have to check so many things? Why are there so many verifications and you guys looking over the credit report and all the details and stuff?
Yeah, I think the easy answer is 2008, 2009, right? And you can cut that if you want, but the reason is there's a lot of pieces that we have to verify because mortgage fraud is very prevalent. We have to make sure that the way the file is set up is the actual situation for the borrower. There are strict qualifying regulations for everybody and every income type and every file type that we do. And we have to be able to verify that the information that we are giving to an investor to purchase the loan is accurate. So that includes credit, assets, income, additional documentation to support a situation, And that can really be a variety of things. So we can touch on that later. But yeah, we have to make sure that you are who you say that you are, and that the file is who we are saying the file is. So.
Right. Sometimes the borrower has to explain like previous address mismatches on the credit report, and like, why do they have to send those little letters? Why do we see that sometimes on the credit report?
Sure. Credit report mainly for variations like that. For addresses, I have them for myself. When I bought my first home in 2019, it was like, hey, I haven't lived at this address in 5 years, or hey, that's my parents' address. Like, I don't live there anymore.
Right.
And it's really to make sure that, you know, there are not additional properties that are being owned and not disclosed by the client. So I still have situations where we see address variations from 20 years ago. You know, a client hasn't lived or owned a property in quite some time, and for whatever reason, the credit report and the credit agencies are still showing as a potential active address. So because of that, that does require verification on our side, and typically an explanation from the borrower.
Is that only at Revolution though? I mean, is that going to happen everywhere they go?
Yep, that'll happen everywhere you go. I would argue that it's probably you know, you're going to be asked for less from Revolution, because all that we need is an explanation, because of the additional technology that we have in place that is verifying whether or not you own these properties. And those are, you know, there are fraud technology pieces that are constantly running throughout the entirety of the file, kind of behind the scenes, but we also need, in combination with that, an explanation from the borrower. So that's typically all that we're ever going to ask for, unless that explanation is I still own this property. Then we have some additional things we need.
You got some splaining to do, Lucy.
You do, yep. But typically, hey, you know, this is my parents' address. Hey, this is a PO box. Hey, I haven't lived here in 10 years. That works.
Exactly. I love it. That is very cool. So you've got some technology, we have some technology that runs behind the scenes, so that if the borrower just explains it, we believe them because we've got other checks in place. Other companies might not have that.
Yeah. I have worked at a company that I can attest to that did not have that. I've worked at a previous company that did have that. So I know it is probably more prevalent now in the technology age that we're in. And even at this point in, you know, mortgage lending, I think you see a lot of lenders and companies that are picking up on the need and the use for technology, especially in, you know, reporting and kind of monitoring for mortgage fraud, because of how prevalent that is. But it definitely gives us a leg up.
Yeah. So it's kind of trust but verify.
It is, absolutely.
All day long. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. It's not that we don't trust the borrowers, not that we don't trust y'all, but just, we just need to make sure so that the loans are good. And so what else? What kind of, do you think sets Revolution apart?
I think, you know, like we've already touched on, the ability to communicate with the underwriter specifically, but really with the entirety of our staff. So I know we wanted to touch on, you know, kind of problem and solution. One of the main things that I have really enjoyed, and what's, you know, allowing me to do my job to the best of my ability, is the way that the different, gosh, I just had a little brain fart.
No, it's fine. I'll edit it out.
Okay. But the way that all of our departments here at Revolution can work together, and they're integrated together. So if we do come to a speed bump, or there's something that, you know, we're not really sure if we're going to be able to verify, or we might need to find a workaround that will still satisfy investors and the guidelines, you know, the manager for underwriting for the entire company is a phone call away. The regional director for a specific sales branch is a phone call away. And typically when we are, you know, if we get to a situation and we need all hands on deck, we get responses from those people. And but that sounds silly, but I've been in situations in companies where that doesn't happen, and it can take days.
It absolutely doesn't. So yes.
The company is small enough, thankfully, that it is very communication oriented and problem solving oriented. And that doesn't just start with the, people like me and Chris that are going to be interacting.
Awesome, Blossom. I am just so grateful to be able to spend this time with you. I have a passion for Revolution Mortgage, guys, and you know that from my other video, Revolution, and it's like no other, guys. And so, well, Seth is just, one example of how caring and wonderful and just different. I mean, the culture at Revolution, right? It's just different.
It is different. It's positively different. Yep.
Yes, positively different. Very, very special. I love it. So, well, thank you so much. I know you got to get back to what you're doing over there. Just loved spending time with you, Mr. Seth.
Likewise. Thank you for the invite. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Alrighty. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned. There's going to be so much more information down the line.